Today we're joined by someone who proves that sustainability in tech isn't just a buzzword, it's a competitive edge. Stefan Brechling Larsen is Global Sustainability Leader at Lenovo, where he's driving one of the industry's most ambitious sustainability strategies.
Stefan hasn't just rolled out solar panels on Lenovo's rooftops, like the Innovation Center in Budapest, powered 100% by renewable energy since 2024, but he's also asking the uncomfortable question, why do we diligently recycle bottles yet toss IT hardware, which accounts for 2 to 4% of global carbon emissions, without a second thought? He predicts this isn't a tech problem, it's a leadership problem.
What excites us most is how Stefan bridges technical expertise with strategic marketing, proving sustainability isn't just good for the planet, it's good for the bottom line. But there's the kicker. How do you convince a US and Chinese headquartered company to embrace European sustainability goals when even mandatory reporting is under fire globally?
And that's exactly what we'll dive into today. How do we make sustainability not just a nice to have, but the core of business strategies, even in political turbulent times? Stefan, welcome to Munich. I'm so super pleased and so super happy that you, being a close friend of mine since a long, long time, you made the way all across from Denmark, from Copenhagen here to Munich to be the very first guest in season 2, first episode of 2026. Thank you very much. And One Day in Transformation is welcoming you.
Thank you so much, Ryan, and thank you very much. Very, very happy to be here and very honored to be part of your first real live podcast. Thank you so much.
And the first one in English. That's something a premiere for us as well. So you might have recognized that we're spreading One Day in Transformation now globally. And I mean, what better could have been our first guest from Denmark? I mean, Denmark is known for being one of the most sustainable parts in the world. So therefore, I think it does make sense that you are the first one to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Stefan, welcome to One Day in Transformation. You're based in Wilbæk, Denmark, a place known for its stunning coastline and progressive sustainability culture. How does living in Denmark shape your perspective on global environmental challenges?
I think actually it comes with how we for a long time have been evaluating sustainability in Denmark. There's always been this kind of very closely with nature. We need to live off it, but also need to take care of it. And one of the things that has been on the forefront in Denmark has been around sustainability, because we do believe there is an alternative option, let's say a more sustainable option. You can see that in many aspects. I think we were one of the first countries that actually recycled bottles. But we are also one of the companies that are investing in this. One of them being one of the biggest global windmill manufacturers and investors that now are located on a global scale. So I think I wouldn't say it's in our DNA, but it's actually something that we are living every day.
And talking about DNA and living every day, before we deep dive very much into the topic of sustainability and what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, let's start with maybe a tradition which at least the long-time listeners of our podcast already know about. Every guest in the first season did share a song, some even two, on their current playlist. So what would be the one track you'd like to add to our 2026 playlist, maybe something that fills your work with power, or which helps you to unwind, something which comes to your mind?
Well, I guess the obvious answer would be What a Wonderful World, but other than that, naturally as I get older, I actually tend to be more and more, let's say, crazy about Frank Sinatra and some of his songs, and basically there is a full playlist. I like that more relaxed, but also kind of the swing stuff. So that would be something from one of those. If I want to go a little crazy, I would say that I'm very much open to a lot of stuff, but right now it's very much Frank Sinatra. Yeah.
Frank Sinatra, what a wonderful world. I mean, that's if that could be a perfect start to 2026, I would guess.
Yes.
I mean, as we're starting with that season and we're in January now, as we're publishing, the year is going to start. So what a wonderful world should be maybe an optimistic view to what the next year will bring.
If he was actually doing that, it was more Louis Armstrong that did What a Wonderful World.
True.
But
you're right.
But I would love if he could do it, but that's going to be a little difficult. But definitely, I think personally I favor a lot of his songs, but New York for several reasons. First of all, because I really, really love the city, but also because I think it's a great song with some great sentences, right? If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. And I guess the same goes with sustainability.
Even further now with current times in the US, I guess. Very much true.
That's a different movie.
Okay, so you lived and worked across cultures from Denmark to the US. What's a unique habit or tradition from your time in Denmark or elsewhere that influence how you approach your work today?
So, growing up in Denmark, and especially from the very young generation, I think there are a lot of aspects also when it comes to sustainability that is a fixed part, and that I'm also now starting to see with my small kids. Especially something around sorting waste, so plastic bottles and stuff like that. And when I grew up, it wasn't something that was mandatory like it is now. Mm-hmm. It was more like you could do it if you wanted, but you didn't have to. We still did it. And then you might say, okay, but that's strange. Why do you do it if it's not mandatory? Well, there's still this little sense of you need to do something right. And if you can do it yourself, even the small things, you feel like at least I'm contributing to some of this. Mm-hmm. And now when I look at my kids and they're even more eager, that really warms my heart.
You just said it. I mean, you lived all across very different continents. You said you're in love with Manhattan or New York City. Is that something which did take an influence on how you're treating things today? Is that something which maybe helps you to understand your current situation better? You're a global sustainability leader at Lenovo, like we've already introduced you. And that's a role that bridges sustainability and tech in a company which is either US headquartered and Chinese headquartered. So what drives you pushing green IT solutions in such kind of a surrounding? Is that something which did help you with living in the US for a time?
I would say living in the US did not help me in that sense. It was more in terms of watching and interacting with our big customers that really made me believe there is an opportunity here, also from an IT vendor. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was natural. Of course, we need to do something also in the IT industry, and maybe even in specific in the IT industry. We have a great opportunity, but we also have, let's say, an importance to do something because we can't make a difference. And that has been one of the key drivers in my current role. We can make a difference. And that's the important part.
Yeah, very much true. And coming back again to your current position at Lenovo, how did you end up there? How did you get there? And what is your motivation to drive things in such kind of surrounding?
Well, the interesting part is actually that, again, then we need to go back to the Nordics. So before my current position, I was still working at Lenovo, but in a different position in the Nordics, with a lot of interaction with partners and customers on a daily scale. And what was interesting was 6-7 years ago, a lot of the Nordic customers in specific started to ask around sustainability. And at that time, sustainability was at a different place than where it is today. But they were starting to get those very specific requirements. What are you doing around sustainability in Lenovo? What can you do and how can you do something? So that was when I started to figure out what can we do in specific for our customers to help them on their sustainability journey. Right. And at the same time, in parallel, inside Lenovo, we were starting also to measure the CO2 on our products. Mm-hmm. So I started combining those two and thinking, maybe we can actually design a service that can help in a tangible way our customers where they are right now, to show that they can make the difference. And that's how one of the most successful sustainability solutions, our CO2 offset service, came around.
Which I know from the very beginning, as you've invented it, so to say, at Lenovo, as I have been in a role at Siemens at that time. And I mean, did things change since then? I mean, we do see currently all over the world, changing situations, different habits. But the thing is, exactly as you said, it's Scope 3 emissions, which is the biggest part for most companies. And IT plays a major role of that, because everybody is using IT on a daily basis, whether it's on a user base, whether it's equipment like laptops and smartphones, or it's then in the data centers, which is an ever-growing field now, even more than ever before. And I'm just wondering why things are changing in an angle like they do at the moment.
You're absolutely right. Things have changed since then, and it's 6-7 years ago. And the interesting thing is that the speed around sustainability and even in IT has also still been very, very high. So if we go back a little in time, 6 years ago, the talk around sustainability was at a different level. Most of our customers were not as familiar with sustainability. They knew they need to do something, but they didn't know where to start and how to. Fast forward till today. I would say vast majority of our customers today are fully aware of sustainability.
Right.
They are at least aware in Europe around the legal aspect of it, what they need to do and what they have to do. But what is also very important to emphasize is that we also start to see sustainability in a different light now.
Right.
We are starting to see sustainability as any other investment for our customer side. Meaning, and this is what we are going into. A couple of years ago, sustainability was seen as something, wow, new, brand new. Nobody really knew what to do around it, or at least they need to know something. Today, it is considered as an investment, like in a building or whatever. So most companies right now see also the need for a return on that investment.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They need to optimize that investment because they have a given budget on that investment. So basically, the cost of carbon is becoming so much more important for our customers. So we see a shift in the market. We see a shift in the market in a good and a bad way. In a good way because it's seen as something our customers need to do. In a bad way because now they're extremely focused on the outcome. Meaning that all new ideas not necessarily are being brought in if you cannot see the tangible outcome.
No KPI. No.
Another thing I'm also being very, let's say, questioned about, okay, are there certain industries where you see a bigger drive for sustainability than others? The answer is no. That's the difference, I would say, between sustainability and so many other aspects. Even in very conservative industries, you see players that are very pro-sustainability. You can also see very innovative sectors where some companies do not really consider sustainability as one of those key drivers. So, coming back to your point, I think it's not necessarily geographic, it's not necessarily politics, it's much more what is driving in the company that feeling around sustainability and behavior.
Let's maybe just build up on what you just said. I mean, that all just points towards what our podcast is even called, One Day in Transformation. So transformation as a buzzword, as a word which is more and more used, and I think one of the upcoming things for 2026 even. But what does transformation mean for you in particular? What is critical from your perspective in personal life and in business life as well to be transformative?
I think, and in that, Ryan, you're absolutely correct. It's all about transformation. It's all about being on the forefront with the development. And the honest truth is, this is not new. We've seen that over time in many, many, many years. The companies that are still on the forefront are the ones that can adjust and also react to what's happening and even proactively happen to something like that. That's also why sometimes when I'm being asked, so is sustainability something unique, something new, something special compared to any other things in the world? The answer is maybe to some extent, but not really, right? I think you could actually see kind of sustainability as kind of like the Olympics. The Olympics being that, if you do not prepare, if you do not train, you might qualify for the Olympics, but you will never win it, right? Mm-hmm. There are rules in the Olympics, just like in sustainability. You cannot just go and do whatever you want and think you can win the Olympics. There are certain rules. The good thing about sustainability, like in the Olympics, if you train, you get better. You get a chance, and you get a second chance 4 years after. What is also the difference between sustainability and the Olympics is, even though you are up against really good competition, you can still compete internally because you have your own goals, you have your own time to set. And let's also be honest, there's this saying that in the Olympics, that second place is actually the first loser. That's where it differentiates from sustainability. If you attempt and if you do something in sustainability, you're not considered as a loser.
True, very much true. And there's another saying for Olympics is that participating is everything. And I think that is one of the additions I would give. It's not about being in the first place or being in the second place, not about winning or losing. Once you're participating, that means the world, because you are part of something which is moving and changing and transforming.
Correct. And what you also see in the Olympics, like in any other sport, but especially also in the Olympics, you have the favorites. You have the ones you think this guy or girl is going to win it by far. But let's be honest, some of these can also fail and do that from time to time. It comes as a big surprise. Someone else wins because he or she had done something new, has trained better, found a new technique, whatever. So it's never too late. And that's kind of my point also with sustainability. I get the question many times is that, what do I do if I only just started around sustainability? Is it too late? No, it's never too late, right? And that's the importance.
And I would also add that sustainability is also a team sport.
You're absolutely right. So sustainability is something that, when we look at it, I don't think that you can go out and say, oof, I overperformed on sustainability. And somebody would say, oh, that's really bad. Right? So, yeah.
And just a bit of self-promotion, as we do that on our own, that podcast here. If you're listening right now and asking yourself the question, how could I start? Well, there is companies who make their living out of that, and one of them is us. Yes. So if you're interested in talking to a German-based consultancy, which might be even a low-cost country from a Danish perspective, then we are always happy to help. Just getting a little bit of self-advertisement.
No, and also, I think it's also important to emphasize, even though you yourself sitting out there saying, I got it all under control, I cannot optimize anymore around sustainability, the honest truth is, yes, you can. There is always some sparing, and this is a perfect example of that.
Very, very true. And there is Lenovo able to help you if you have a target to reduce your IT emissions.
We can definitely also be of assistance there, yeah.
Absolutely.
Stefan, I want to mention something you said. So you say sustainability is a leadership problem, not a tech problem. What's the biggest misconception you face when discussing green IT with executives?
There are a couple, but the top one is definitely everybody's got this feeling that sustainability is going to cost you money. When I speak with a lot of big international corporations, the first question they say is that, how much is it going to cost us? Instead of maybe saying, what is the return of the investment in this? We are starting, as I mentioned earlier, we're starting to see people are moving into that direction. But the honest truth is, we have many solutions around sustainability that's not really going to cost you more, that can even add or save you money. Both, let's say, in the planning phase, but also in the return phase of old equipment. So we have many solutions, and what we in IT are not the only ones. You know more about this, but definitely don't see it as a pure cost.
Absolutely.
See it as an opportunity.
To get to that point, to see it as an opportunity, I think the most important aspect is to have a strategy in place. And we found something else you just recently published in IT Watch, which is an article where you've highlighted that it's currently, at least for Denmark, around 30% of Danish companies with a IT sustainability strategy, which is very little. I mean, that means 70% is not. And I think the same is valid for all over Europe, with a little differentiation maybe. But why do you think there is such a gap between, and now take a recycling habit in Denmark, for example, which I think 95% of households are recycling, same here in Germany. We are most famous for that. But what is the gap, and why is there such kind of a gap between that and then corporate IT practices?
Yeah, that's been also one of the things that I question myself many times. And I don't think you have one answer to that question. I think there's several. But there's no doubt that, at least when it comes to IT and corporations and their purchasing behavior around IT, it's still very how it always has been. And this historical development has not really changed. And we can see that. We can see that the way that the behavior is around, we keep the units for X amount of years and then we need to replace all of them with new ones, and then we do it like we've always done. Personally, I think if we want to change that picture, we definitely need to look at, let's say, old behavior versus new behaviors. And here sustainability is one of those things. And what we can see is that companies that interact with us around this is looking at brand new options, brand new opportunities also when it comes to sustainability.
Well, maybe what comes to my mind currently, AI is all over, and everybody, in particular in IT divisions, might be completely distracted by that, and the priorities set from the executives is on AI. But maybe there is even a good combination of both, and even a need to combine AI and sustainability.
Totally agree. AI has taken over a lot of space lately, which is good and bad. What is interesting about AI, just as a little side note to that, is that, and you can actually try that yourself, but when you speak with people around AI, then ask them, okay, so what would AI right now help you with? Very few do 100% know how AI is going to help them.
Beside maybe texting emails a bit faster or preparing PowerPoint presentations, but in a concrete way.
In a more specific way. But, and here is the interesting thing, when you combine AI with sustainability, that is where you can really make and see the difference. So, we have developed several kind of tools, but one of them definitely is a tool where we can help on the whole IT solution for our customers, basically to provide the carbon footprint outcome before the solution has been purchased by the customer.
And I was going to ask you exactly that way, how AI and data transparency can help you measure, and in particular with the current situation, without falling into greenwashing traps. I mean, that is where I think Lenovo can help and where your tools can help, and that's already a very good use case for AI and sustainability in a combination, right?
Exactly. So this is actually one of those things where we proactively can go out to our customers with different kind of scenarios around IT and IT solutions with a given CO2 footprint before the actual purchase. And this is something we haven't been able to do before. So when I look at this, I also see that there is a change in the IT industry in this area as well. So just a couple of years ago, well, basically still, IT and our customers have been driven by two major things: price and specs.
Right.
It's been like that for 20 years or more, which is fine, which is fair, because that's important. But now we have at least a third leg here, which is sustainability outcome. And that will help our customers also on their transition from the traditional IT to the new IT. So from a transformation from not really knowing to now having the information before they make their actual selection. And I think that is the area we are going into. A little like we talked about on the investment side. Now that you get the numbers before you actually do it, it also makes your decision much, much stronger and much, much better going forward, also around sustainability.
Absolutely.
You advocate for circular economy principles, so let's just shift the topic a bit. What's one small step companies could take tomorrow to treat hardware as a resource, not just waste?
Planning. So I normally say that if you plan for sustainability, the likelihood of increasing on the sustainability is much better. Mm-hmm. And when I mean planning, it goes from, especially in IT, of course, because that's where I'm based, it goes from selecting the right model, transportation, packaging, usage, and also the very last step of the way, what about when the units needs to go out of the company? Mm. Giving it a second life. Looking into new areas like refurbished units. Looking into new areas like, do you need to own them or could you actually lease them? Because there are a lot of new aspects here that can help. Also around IT.
Definitely, and I mean, we are on a planet with limited resources, so therefore wasting things and throwing them away and dump siting them doesn't make sense at all. So therefore we have to always consider in reusing and recycling components and equipment. And I mean, just on our history, as we've been working at Siemens, I can still remember a couple of people who have been super keen in getting a 4-year-old Lenovo device from Siemens being formerly used there for business purposes, and after 4 years refurbed then for private use. And that is something which we can always keep in the back of our heads.
Absolutely correct. And I think the one question, and this is also the question that's going to be the tricky question to ask out there among all our friends and customers, is do all employees always need a brand new PC?
Or a
it's a tricky one.
Else, yeah.
Or a smartphone, or a car, or whatever, right? That's the real question there, right?
And if you're asking yourself that question now as well while listening to us, there's ways to make it look new and doesn't have to be new. I mean, if it's, I wouldn't take over something which is already 3 years old and looks like 3 years old. I would like to have at least clean and new and, well, a nice working type of an equipment. That is something which is possible even with reused hardware, which is already 3 or 4 years old.
Correct. And it goes with a lot of things in life, right? I'm sure people are starting now to think. Some might even think, what about my wife or my husband? That I will leave to someone else to think about. But definitely around some equipments for sure.
That's maybe a completely different market. We should not take.
That would be in another podcast, as they say.
True. So a refurbished wife or husband. We're not going that.
Yeah, but look at the fashion industry. They got all kind of new stuff to make it look good and great.
That's very true.
Okay, so I'm very curious to hear something about your work or some initiative at Lenovo about sustainability, or just a project you're excited you would like to share some information with our audience.
Yeah, we're working on a lot of stuff, but I must say that like in the beginning, what really lies close to my heart is the CO2 offset service, because that was really the service that started the whole thing. You know, the whole way of thinking, making it tangible, making it relevant. And I think the principles are still very much applying for this, right? If you look at it, again, I think, you know, almost coming back to the Olympics, and you have all these circles here. I think if you look at it, actually, you can still relate to it a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Because, first of all, when you look at sustainability and you look at solutions, right? You know, there are some fundamentals that is important or are very, very important for all. One is the cost. You know, You cannot have a sustainability solution that is so expensive that it doesn't make sense, right? The other one are, as we talked about, the actual carbon savings. That's also very, very important. If there are no carbon savings, then what is it really good for?
Why should it take it? Yeah.
But then there are also other elements. Implementation. If the solution is too difficult to implement, takes too long, forget it. So there are a few overlapping things that makes kind of the perfect sustainability solutions. And I think at least the CO2 offset service opened really the eyes for looking, listening to the customer, finding that right combination of all of these that fits into this.
So if now one of your customers from Lenovo is now listening to that podcast and asking that question, well, I've never heard of that. How should she or he get more information about that? Is that something you could share? We can just link that here in the show notes then as well.
We could definitely link it. We also have it all across our websites. It's just going in and type CO2 offset service. So definitely there. Among one of the many solutions we have, yes.
Perfect.
So we're introducing something new in our season 2, the Week of Transformation Challenge. At the end of each episode, our guests will give us a practical tip, something small but impactful that the listeners can try out in their daily lives. So Stefan, what's one action you recommend our audience to take this week to make their work or personal life a little more sustainable?
And just to clarify to our listeners, first for asking you that question, we'll be trying out Stefan's tip ourselves and reporting back in the next episode on how it went. Success, failure, and whatever it might be.
See.
So that was some kind of a question here at the very end. Whether it's extremely sustainable, one can always argue. But one of the things, and I think actually now is the absolute right timing for this, is exercise.
Ooh, exercise, okay.
So, especially now, we are entering Christmas season and everybody are running around like crazy and you don't have enough time. I'm sure most of the listeners also have the day-to-day challenge of finding time in their calendars because of work and kids and family and so on and so forth. I had the same challenge. But one of the things I actually found out was I am blocking myself every day for 30 minutes of exercise. Because if I don't do that, I will be booked north, east, south, and west.
All day long.
All day long. And then you end up at 5 or 6, you need to pick up the kids, you need to make them food and blah, 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 blah. And basically, once that is done, you are dead. So what I found out was if I block myself for 30 minutes, then actually I have 30 minutes. Either in the morning, midday, or whenever it fits you. And then you can do whatever exercise you like. But you dedicate it to exercise.
Each day.
In the beginning, not each day, but all depending on your shape and form, no. You can always plan how you want that, but the good news is, it's a good break. It's good with some exercise, in all honesty. And what I found out was, I have a tendency, I love to go out and run. What I have a tendency to find out is that when I do that, it actually clears my mind. And when I then get back, I get more productive. And then also there is the third or fourth element, whatever it is, the general feel good, the mentally feel good that you actually did something is far bigger than one should think.
That's an amazing tip, and I'm already looking forward to try that out.
Yes.
And I mean, 30 minutes a day, that will be...
Let's book a yoga class.
We could combine that. Yeah. And one day we do yoga class, the other way we go running out here or something else. That's a really good one, and I'm already looking forward to share then the experience.
Yeah.
And as we are recording now prior to Christmas, but publishing after Christmas, it will be even better because everybody's feeding up over Christmas time with the families, eating way too much, way too much sweets, way too much whatever type of things. And so it's the perfect timing to start exercising 30 minutes per day. I like that. I really like that. So Stefan, we're already at the end of our amazing podcast, and we have another tradition which you probably already know. And so the question I'm always asking is, Antea, what's our plan for tomorrow? Are we going to install solar panels on every data center, or starting a Nordic sustainability revolution, exercising 30 minutes a day, or maybe
hopefully.
just moving to Copenhagen and
yes.
biking to work like Stefan?
Yeah, would be nice, but same as every day, Rainer. We try to take over the world.
Yeah, well, actually, we've been there already. Remember the Vikings?
Oh yeah, maybe.
So we tried that.
So
Okay, so more realistically, we'll keep pushing for real change, one greener tea decision at a time, because as Stefan showed us, sustainability isn't just about big gestures, it's about smart choices and leading by example.
that sounds like a very much better plan than taking over the world. And after all, that transformation starts with knowledge, courage, and a little Danish hygge.
And people like Stefan who turn challenges into opportunities.
Absolutely. So rethink,
Reimagine,
transform,
one day in transformation.
Thank you very much, Stefan. Tak
Thank
that
you.
you had been here. And thank you for making the way from Copenhagen to Munich, just for being with us in that very special and super starting of episode 2 and in the new season. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I will pump my bike and bicycle back to Copenhagen.
Have a safe trip back home and hopefully keeping you warm then.
Definitely.
Thank you very much.